Welcome to Lesson 2. The first action verb that we'll study today is a word with the idea he came, coming near, moving near. And I chose this word because it's used hundreds of times in the Bible, around 400 times, and if we count its other forms of the same verb, perhaps more than 500 times. And the pronunciation of this word, like the modern Hebrew pronunciation, ba, ba, and in the future form, yavo, yavo. And this word is used hundreds of times in the Bible. When we look at the symbols, we can compare them to the symbols used in modern Hebrew. And not only the modern Hebrew of the language, but also the modern form of the religion. By modern, I mean 1,000 years ago. There is a handwritten text of the Bible that contains the symbols for the vowels. And I group them here as 13 symbols. The vowels that were used for the action verb coming, he came, the idea of moving near, we are looking for the shape of a double line, two lines connected. So that differs from the first group, a simple dot, sometimes above the letter and sometimes under the letter. Another shape is a pair of dots, two dots horizontal or two dots vertical. And we find these symbols, as I said, in the religious text 1,000 years ago. For example, Codex Leningrad. They used these symbols to preserve the sound of the religious words. And also in modern Hebrew, the children's books have these marks so that the children can learn the pronunciation of the words. And the one that we're looking, the complex line, we must continue our search through the groups of shapes. Another group of three dots is another group. Another group of three dots descending on an angle, that's another group. And finally, we arrive at the target, this group of shapes, a simple line or a simple line with a pair of vertical dots, or the complex line, two lines connected. And this group, in modern Hebrew, they're all pronounced the same sound, ah, ah, and ah. And that's the shape that's used in the action verb, he came, the idea of moving near. It uses that shape, ah. And in the future, yavo. Another word that I chose for today's lesson, because it is used 1,900 times in the Bible, and if we include its other forms, approximately 3,000 times in the Bible, is the verb amar. Amar. He said. Amar. And again, we're using this group of vowels. Amar. Another form of this word, of this verb, is in the present tense. Omer. Omer. That's the modern Hebrew pronunciation. And another form, lemar. Lemar is very frequent in the Bible, and it's simply repeating the verb. The Jewish tradition specifies this is repeating. For example, in the book Genesis. Another form is for feminine. When someone is speaking to a lady, he says, Imri. Imri is the simple dot under the letter. That uses the form in the first group, the simple dot. We conclude the lesson with the original pronunciation when the vowels were pure before the modern alteration. And we see that there are 4 groups based on the evidence. I want to specify before this that in the word Amar, which I chose because it appears 1,900 times, there is a written tradition that preserves that even the northern Jews pronounce the first vowel sound, the 2 connected lines, with an open mouth, like the sound ah, which is preserved in the form of the Russian word da, famous for yes, or the English word bob, the name Bob, or the verb bobbing, to bob. And that sound is for both of these shapes in modern Hebrew. And this is true even of the northern Jews as preserved in the books written 1,000 years ago. After this, there was an alteration, but in the modern state of Israel, a second alteration reverted it so that the pronunciation that is taught matches the books from 1,000 years ago. And now we can conclude the lesson with the ancient pronunciation based on evidence before the alterations. The verb he came, as mentioned, based on the evidence 1,000 years ago, ba. In the future tense, yava, yava. There's a slight difference. The word for saying is very repetitive. They bear. They bear. Very repetitive. Now we go to another form of the word said. Amer. Amer. That is the past tense of said. For the feminine, the alterations did not affect it. Imri. Imri. That is using the symbol, the simple dot, under the letter. And now we can conclude today's lesson. And by learning these words, it is as if you studied thousands of words in the Bible. Thank you.